We got Casey. Good. We're gonna get started. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. We're only 2 days away from the shortest, darkest day, so we're making progress. We will start with reviewing and signing payroll and accounts payable. For the period ending 12/16, we had payroll in the amount of $44,359.18, and we had accounts payable in the amount of $158,401.06. We had an ACH payment to Swayze School of $241,000, and an ACH payment to New Hampshire Retirement of $42,454.07.
AP is right here, and then it's broken down. Those are the checks. That's the payments and totals. Yeah, there must be something in here. Yeah, it's higher than usual.
Just a question, was there, it seemed like the accounts payables was a little high on the regular checks, was there
It's a little
something?
higher than it sometimes says.
Medical insurance.
Medical
Yeah.
insurance payment. You all set?
Yes.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas,
Happy
everyone.
holidays.
Thanks, you too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Because we have a nice swearing-in ceremony, I'm going to wait on consent agenda and public comment and move that up. So we have Chief Ventura up here to welcome Evan Carey onto the force. Come on up, and then the board will need to take a vote to sign appointment paperwork.
You have the contract?
I've got it right in front of me, yeah.
Okay. All right, folks, here we are again. We'll require a good meeting each week, it seems like. It's no secret that I wanted to add personnel to this department, and I think we've made good efforts in doing that, and tonight is just another example of that plan coming together, as well as the support from the board that we've got and you folks as residents. Tonight, we bring to you Evan Carey. He comes to us from Lee PD, where he was a corporal. He has been a certified officer since 2014. We are extremely happy to have him come on board with his expertise and experience. I know he's done some ride-alongs already with the guys. There's a really good fit so far. Actually, Lieutenant Doty was his supervisor in Lee, so it's a known commodity. So the background was fairly easy. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Daphne to swear him in as the 10th full-time officer for Brentwood PD. Never had 10, so this is a big one.
Great. Before we can do the ceremony, I just need a vote from the board to sign appointment paperwork and employment contract for Officer Carey.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I'm an aye. And we'll have Daphne sign you, have you do your pledge.
I'm actually going to move you a little bit this way because the camera sometimes doesn't pick up.
Oh, good idea. All right.
Okay. Jesse, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Evan Carey,
I, Evan Carey,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent on me
as a full-time officer of the Brentwood Police Department,
as a full-time officer of the Brentwood Police Department,
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeably to the rules and regulations
agreeably to the rules and regulations
of the Constitution and laws
of the Constitution and laws
of the state of New Hampshire.
of the state of New
So
Hampshire.
help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
we want
And
any
then,
family
like,
member
you guys come on
photos
real
too?
quick, get a couple minutes.
I'm not done. Yes, you are. I just started. I would like to have.
You in the audience should all know that we do all these pictures.
Give up the child.
They're fighting over the child.
You know, we should have that.
Say bye. Yeah, she does. She said, oh
Karen,
God,
you
I
wanna take a
can't believe you're
picture?
still holding me. I can't see Gagnon. Or.
Oh, there you go. Can you see Gagnon's boot? That's all that matters.
You put it out like a rocket.
I need Gagnon on his baby toes. I'll move that way just a little bit.
You know he has a broken sword.
That's all I do. It's on the headlight.
Okay.
Perfect.
Do you want any family photo or anything?
Oh, did you want, Evan,
Do you want a family photo or anything?
You go right in front of the flag.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Super happy to be here.
Congratulations.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for being here. Well, that's brass.
Welcome.
Now.
Oh, they're not done with you in photos yet.
Go one more forward.
Oh, one way, okay. What do I do with my hands?
I wish they could take a photo with a lot of people here.
Congrats, and welcome.
Thanks, folks.
All right, back to our regular agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda? Okay. Favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Included in tonight's consent agenda are public minutes from 12:12, non-public minutes from 12:12 which are sealed, the rec manifest, treasurer's report, and building permits. Cameron, would you mind closing the door? We will now open public comment. Members of the public are welcome to comment on an agenda item or any other topic of their choosing. If you would just be willing to come up so you can be picked up on the microphone, I would appreciate it. Who do we have interested in public comment? Come on up.
He loves the spotlight, this guy.
I know. Don't forget to state your name and address for the record.
Doug Finnan, One Go Road, Planning Board, Economic Development Committee, and Rockingham Planning Commission. I just want to bring the board up to date over the past meeting that we just had, which was on December 13th. Tim Roach, who is in charge of the RPC, he had some bullet points to go over for the upcoming year. The first one that drew my attention was the Climate Pollution Reduction Act, which there's a meeting on January 10th at 6 p.m. at the Unitil Building in Exeter. The state of New Hampshire plus Boston metropolitan area are coming together to review energy, solar, those type of things. And there is a $4.6 million grant that is available. And I reached out, I spoke to John about it and Kristen, and I think John reached out to Letty and Mr. LeBrecq. Kristen reached out to Mr. LeBrecq, and I believe he is going to attend that meeting because there's going to be an advisory board as well. And I wanted to mention it to Russ because I thought you might be interested in doing something like that too. It's a pretty informative time. They review things differently every single year, and Tim sort of reached out to me while I was at the meeting and indicating he'd like to see representation of Brentwood there. That was one thing. And and the urgency in that is that the grants that are available have got to be submitted by, the application's got to be submitted by March 1st of next year, and the due date is April 1st. So it's a very narrow window, but I'm not well-versed in grants or anything of that nature. But if there's anybody that is, they may want to attend and help out in that fashion. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to attend that night, so if I'm going to speak to Steph, she's the vice chair of the planning board, see if she'll sit, make sure she's there to sit in my seat and she can come back to the board.
Doug, was there a thought that like the upcoming school solar might be eligible for that?
I
or
don't know.
Just maybe.
It was just, solar was the terminology,
Gotcha.
and I only learned about, no, I didn't just learn about the solar for the school, but that's what I thought of,
Sure.
but I didn't elaborate with that conversation. But at that
It's worth
meeting,
finding out more.
we could find out more. The other thing that's coming up, and this is in March, is our regional household hazardous waste facility feasibility study coming under review. In this review, there's a number of towns that are participating under the RPC for hazardous waste disposal, and they have a certain date, and they're looking to expand that, and meaning more opportunity, maybe a central location, more frequency of being open. I know we sponsor our own, but when they named off all the towns, our town was not mentioned at all. And until that comes up, I'm going to find out if we can get on that list, even if we had our own, if we could participate in a regional type, or Rockingham regional disposal, that would be good. And the date of the meeting is to be determined at this time. And the other thing that was mentioned is a regional master plan, and that has not been scheduled as of yet. And working on this master plan as we are on the planning board, I'll hurry up, is water and sewer. They're going to be talking about water and sewer infrastructure, economic investment to the region, community development, and other areas. There are some grants that are coming up that are available as well there. And I'm not quite sure which avenue we should go to pick up on the grants or what would be available for the growth of the town, but it may be something worth looking at. One of the key points that they mentioned in reference to this is that they're getting a point of view of 45-year-old to 65-year-old demographic as what their needs are going to be in the future. Now for the master plan. But more importantly, which has been mentioned before, is that they are trying to get younger people involved, and meaning high school age to young adults sitting on this board, telling us what their point of view would be for the future growth of not only the region, but also I'd like to include that in our master plan because I think that's important. I think as we get older, we get a little set in our ways, and the younger kids see things differently than we do. They're wrong. And I think that does it. Don't charge me for overtime. And I'm out of here.
Thank you.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you, Doug.
Anyone else interested in public comment? Come on.
I remember the routine.
Okay, you got it.
Oh, Betsy Ibbotson's Gravel Road, got that part right. The last two meetings that I've gone to, select board meeting, and then I listened to the budget meeting last night. And I have a concern both times, if I didn't mishear Chief Bird or Captain Bird, what do we call him?
Chief Bird.
He was indicating both times that he has someone, a female that works for him, that frequently works overtime and doesn't get paid for it. And I don't know if that's something we should look into. I mean, he said it at both meetings. I listened very specifically, and he said it at both meetings. I think that's something we should be a little concerned about.
I think that it has been remedied in this budget, because yes, we heard that same thing.
So that person,
We increased that
this budget
budget
isn't until
significantly.
March, so this person's not gonna get compensated until March?
I think we can
if
talk
they're
to the
working
chief offline.
overtime.
I think that there are the monies in the budget for her to be paid. I think the discussion was more focused, that particular point was around the EMS person and how she works from home and could put in for a lot of hours that she just doesn't put in for. I don't think that it's a resource constraint. I think it's we need to encourage her to not feel guilty about putting in for the hours that she's.
And I
That she's
agree,
really
that's what it sounded like, that the resources were there and she's not putting in, so I think possibly she should be encouraged to do that. You know, as we were talking about older, as you get older, I mean, the amount that you make determines how much retirement you're gonna get. So if you don't start when you're young, then every bit of that you miss out on as you get older.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else interested in public comment? All right, seeing no further, we will end public comment at 6:17. We'll move on to discussion action items. We have a little bit of a lengthy agenda, but we hope to go through it pretty expeditiously if possible. We already did the first one, which is swearing in Officer Carey. Number 2 is Chief Ventura with an impact fee request. Come on up. And I don't know, do we have anything in I didn't see anything in the packet about this.
I didn't.
No?
It was a sneak attack.
A sneak attack from the chief.
Sort of, kind of, around the
All
back.
right, chief, lay it on the line.
No, it's impact fee, so anyway, fleet management, as I've told you in the past, has been somewhat challenging. We just blew a transmission on a vehicle, which is between $5,000 and $7,000 to replace since I last spoke to you folks. So it can happen like that when you have aged equipment, which is what I'm trying to avoid in terms of the current fleet I have. We have an opportunity to purchase a used cruiser. The cruiser has 82,000 miles on it. It's a 2018. Very low patrol miles. It comes from a very northern town called Sugar Hill, which, if you Google it, there's not a ton of roads in Sugar Hill to patrol. So this cruiser has been treated very lightly. Hasn't been in any pursuits. We have the maintenance records. The guy's actually, Chris, who's much more versed in vehicles than I, he went up and the lieutenant checked it out early or late last week. They were impressed with it. It's been sitting for about a month and a half. They just don't have a need for it. They got a new cruiser and they don't have a need for it, and they're not gonna hold it. It's very sound, and the price is perfect. The reason it's perfect is because, again, I just had a cruiser that's only got 105,000 miles below a complete transmission. I'm trying to preserve the fleet of inline cars that I have. This vehicle would be used as a supervisor vehicle only. Again, if you follow the ball with my model where I have a supervisor on every night, this would be the car out every night. And it's gonna say supervisor right on it. And it's gray, unlike the rest of them, which is fine. I'm not gonna paint it over. We're simply gonna put our logo on it. So the price all in for it, in terms of what I think we would have to do to make it road ready, it comes with all equipment too. Light bar, lights. We would pull the radio from the damaged cruiser that we have now and put it in that. So the cost on equipment would be minimal. It has a push bumper that's not right for that car, so we'd have to replace that, but we actually have one in the house. So we'd have to pay for the labor to put that on. Probably the recommendation of Chris would be I just want to reference it correctly if I can, and I'll pass some pictures around if anybody would like to see. The brakes are strong, front pads and rotors were just changed at 80,000 miles. The only repairs that appear to be needed at this time is possibly 2 wheel bearings and a new set of tires is really what he thinks it would need. The last oil change was at 78,000 miles. So this car, if driven by supervisors, will last us a minimum of another 6 years easily. And when I was with Wakefield, I had a rotation for the supervisor car as well. It's a vehicle that needs to be there. Anyway, the all-in price is $15,000 for it, so it's not that expensive. It's very cheap money for a cruiser that's, yeah, you're more than welcome to look at the corporal's write-up in there, as well as the photos of it. Look like you have questions, Andy.
How many miles does it have on it now?
82.
And you think you can get 6 years out of that?
Yeah, because again, it's gonna be driven one shift a day. And supervisors are not traditionally gonna be on patrol. So it's not out looking for cars, it's not out, it's gonna be a responsive, more of a responsive vehicle than anything. I mean, it's maybe, 6 might be generous, I'll definitely go with 5 years out of it. The Fords, see, the problem that we have is we bought these 2 Tahoes, and I've made no secret that I was not in agreement with that purchase when it happened, but I get it. It was presented to you folks in a manner which, you know, seemed like it would be a good idea. But in practicality, they have not served us well. We go through tires like nobody's business with those. Those are meant for long highways and less turns and things like that. And when we're cutting turns on Route 125, going after cars, it's just not good. So anyway, this will, but we have the 2 Fords we have, you can't kill them. One's got 130, one's got 140. And they're still rocking and rolling and they're solid. Ford makes a solid product, they do. Very rarely do you get 11. I've had one in my past and, you know, it just seems like every once in a while, and Andy could probably attest this, you get this one cruiser that seems to be jinxed. You fix it and then a deer hits it. You fix it and somebody runs over a push pin that blows the engine. It's the dumbest things that happen to us. Our car 5 is one of those, okay, which is the Tahoe. That's why I would like to decommission it and make it strictly a detail vehicle.
That's the one that just blew the transmission?
Yeah, I have to fix the transmission because it will go to a detail vehicle. I can probably get it a little cheaper on a rebuilt transmission from somebody local that we're looking into. So, you know, I wouldn't come before you if I didn't think that this was a really good deal for us to do. Have the impact.
So 15 grand's a no-brainer. I mean, the equipment on that car is worth 15 grand.
Easily. And we just happen to have the radio in car 5, so it's a complete package.
I just, the 6 years, I think, I don't think we'll get, but even if you get 2 years out of it, 15 grand is a good
Sure,
investment.
yeah, I get you.
How many miles do you put on it a year? Like,
It really depends on what part of the rotation it's in. If it's in the first part of the rotation, you could put 40,000 miles on it every year easily. If it's towards the latter half, maybe 20. You know, give you an example, the Tahoe's, car 5, the one that blew the transmission, was a front line, and I think it was a 2019, so it's 4 years old. It's got 105,000 miles on it. I put 2 full sets of tires on it last year. They just eat through tires on those, they just do. Because it's a much bigger tire. And if you're gonna start putting truck tires on it, those are just ridiculously expensive.
Now, we just had a discussion recently about using the detail fund versus impact fees, and we had kind of done like a split on our last approval. Is your request for this to come out of impact fees or
Strictly
use
impact,
any
yep.
detail fund?
Yep, strictly impact.
Karen, do you have any issue with impact fees for this?
No, I think the last time this was a discussion, it was replacing a cruiser, and this one would be in addition to the fleet.
I thought we were replacing the Tahoe.
But you're not removing it from the fleet edition, right? So you'll have, what, you have 9 cars, 10 cars
No,
now?
yeah.
So you have 9
I mean, the
cars,
Tahoe will
have
stay
10
on the
cars,
fleet,
yeah.
but as a detail car. So.
So it's growing the fleet?
We're fixing the transmission.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we have to. Yeah.
Okay.
The problem is, it's like, it's not worth much. Like even with the transmission, we tried to unload both of them to a PD out west, and they're like, yeah, we'd just rather buy a brand new. Got that many miles on it, so we're kind of stuck with them.
What's in that current impact fee account?
30.
30?
We have 30, 10 is earmarked for that fingerprint machine.
Yep.
And then this will be the
10 of the 30 is earmarked?
Yes.
So this would only leave 5 in the
Yes.
police, that's the police segment of impact fees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Other board questions, discussion, or thoughts?
Just a question, so when you say leaving 5 in the impact, is that then replenished at a certain
It's
point?
replenished every time there's a new building permit pulled on a new property. So with the River Run project, that will be kicking off, and then the new subdivision that's at the Magnuson Pit, it'll be replenished in no time.
And that's just on a rolling basis, right? Every time there's a application.
And you only have 6 years from the date of deposit to use those funds,
Great.
so it's not beneficial to hang on to them for too long.
Motion.
I hear a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So you are good to go. Do you want this back, Sean?
Sure, please.
Thank you.
Copy of that, please.
Actually, you take it and then you give me a copy back.
Okay, perfect. All right, uh-oh, you're sitting back down.
Yeah, just a minor thing. No, we talked about, we brought it up before and you decided to table it, about some earned time that was unable to be used by Officer Kelly and Wright Ward. It's minimal. It is 42 hours for Matthew Kelly and 17 and a half for Wright Ward. Matt obviously couldn't take vacation this year because he was in training for a good part of the year. He's already got vacations planned next year, so we're already ahead of the game, so he will use his hours next year. And I think, I don't remember if I told you last time, but in my past, I've always had an officer assigned, and I should have done it this year, I just didn't get to it. I have an officer, it will be a supervisor assigned to monitor earned time. What I used to do is look at each officer's earned time at the end of the month, find out where they're at, and then usually around July or August, you start reminding officers, hey, you need to get on the ball, so that you're not doing it in November and December. So I don't anticipate us running into this problem for several reasons, that being one. Number two, we are full staff with 10, so we can cover vacations, people can go on vacation, we don't have to mandatory call-ins, we'll be in a real good spot.
And Karen, if I remember correctly, did I hear that there's 4 employees total across our entire employee group who would qualify?
These are the other two. And these are the dollars that it would cost.
So Joe Bird, which we know about because he almost never takes all his vacation. Wayne Robinson, Matt Kelly, and Jared Wright Ward.
Yep, the
As
rest
we've
of us will use our
discussed.
time between Christmas and New Year's,
Correct.
so it won't be an issue.
And the town has no official policy as it comes to buying out earned time, but historically, we have generally done one-offs when somebody was going to lose their earned time, correct?
Correct. And these are the all-in budget, so it's the wages plus New Hampshire retirement and the associated payroll taxes.
So the total, if this board decides to do all 4 of these earned time buyouts, would be about, so it'd be $5,500.78 for Joe Bird, would be $47.57.97 for Wayne Robinson, $15.67.08 for Matt Kelly, and $741.89 for Jared Wright Ward, for a total of $14,327.43. And Karen, where would that get pulled out of if approved?
They would be absorbed out of those respective departments'
Out of
budgets.
all of their own budgets?
So my budget will have to absorb an additional
The additional, like,
$2,500
yeah,
roughly.
yeah. And we have room in all of those budgets to absorb that?
Yes.
Pass this around if people want to take a look at the numbers. Questions or discussion?
Jared and Matt did this for one of the other officers, is that what I'm remembering?
Well, they were gonna, and this is why there was the lapse, because they were going to donate it to another officer who was gonna go
Who
out.
then didn't need it, right?
But then they didn't have to, but there was a 3-week lapse, so then they were kinda stuck, in limbo on that, so that's why they couldn't take that.
So I guess my comments are, I have 0 issue with the police department's request on this particular issue, but for all the other one, for the other 2, I feel like we should just have a policy, like I don't care really what it is, it's just doing the one-off thing doesn't really feel right to me in general, so I guess my statement on it, my position would be like, okay, kind of, this is the last time we're gonna do this without a policy in place.
Which I think is kind of what this board had been leaning towards anyways, right, after we got through
We
budget season.
talked about it, remember, if you remember when we had those 3 items to bring
Yep.
up last time, and we said, well, we'll table that one till next year.
Yep.
We're gonna come up with something for this to present to you folks,
What Jared
because I
and
don't
Matt,
disagree.
what Jared and Matt did,
Sure, sure.
I'm saying that that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I get that, but I
Yeah.
think as a town, we should have a policy
Yeah.
that does allow for a one-off once in a while, but we should have a policy.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone have any concerns about approving these 4 individuals for an earned time payout out of their own budgets?
Well, my only concern to be is, my recommendation was 40, the last time we brought it up, and we're looking at people with 96. I mean, that's just,
It is.
like, that's a salary increase.
Sure.
If you continually do hold that much earn time.
Sure. So the alternative is make a policy now, if we want.
Well, no, we can make a policy next year, but I mean, our policy is use it or lose it.
Right.
So we have a policy.
That's the problem, we do have a policy, we're just not abiding by the policy.
And
It
I will
feels,
tell-
it feels discomforting, not for this particular situation.
No, I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah.
No, I understand the sort of the conundrum that you're all in with this, believe me, it's not lost on me.
Do you have a suggestion for what you
I-
would feel comfortable with
I'm-
as
I'm
as
with
the
you.
last one off?
I have a motion
Okay, great.
to allow up to a 48-hour buyback,
48 or 40?
48,
48.
because there's a 42 number in there with legitimacy, so if I make it 48, it kind of
Covers the
covers
bases.
that.
Plus, that's half of 96, so. Just happens to be.
Second.
I'm sorry, what was the 48 based on? I missed that, Andy.
So, one of the people that has a legitimate issue with the buyback is 42. My original thing was 40, but one of the PD people has 42.
I see.
So, I'm going with 48 up to, because I don't think the person should be penalized at 42 for the 40.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
I'm adding 8 hours to it. That's my
Okay.
thought process.
Okay.
Or not 42? Okay.
So we have a motion and a second on the table for a one-time up to 48-hour payback with the caveat
Are
that
you
this
saying
is.
are we saying one time or are we saying annual?
I think we're saying one time for this
Okay.
last out of policy and then redo the policy in 2024, or rewrite the policy.
My only question is on this, to throw a monkey in the ring.
It's your motion.
After
What do
you already made the
Well,
motion.
this just came up in my mind, that Chief Bird sat here and said he builds 80 hours of vacation into his salary for a buyback that the select board approved last year in his budget.
Historically, yes.
But
that's just-
policy.
That's budget.
I mean,
If we approved an extra 2 weeks in his salary line, that's my only concern.
Karen looks like she has a comment.
Go ahead, Karen.
Historically, what has, I mean, it's usually Chief Bird who's had the highest number.
Yes.
Historically, over the last 5 to 10 years, how has that been handled by these boards? this
So when
board?
I first started here, any excess was paid at 50% at the
Okay.
rate.
Say that again?
When I
50?
first started here, it was 50% of your rate at the time for the number of hours that you
Okay,
had in excess.
so full hours, but at a 50% rate.
Correct.
Okay,
Around when Wayne retired from the PD and we started to have staffing issues in the PD and officers we didn't have the staff to allow them to take the vacation
Yep.
appropriately, then we started paying it out at 100%.
right, makes sense.
And that's sort of the way it's been for the last
Because there
few
was a
years.
staffing crunch.
Yes.
Okay.
I think you also have a difference here where you have hourly employees versus salary employees.
Sure. Yep. What would your suggestion be for this current situation in front of us with the 2 salaried versus the 2 hourly employees?
I think Andy's suggestion is fair. It keeps the PD whole. It gives Wayne and Chief Bird something, but also encourages them to take time off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Wayne also is planning to take some time off in between Christmas and New Year's, right? So that'll probably eat up the other bit of it. Right, I
Okay.
mean, they can take a vacation between Christmas and New Year's,
True.
the other 2 use up the other half.
That's true.
As long as it doesn't snow.
Right.
We don't want a white Christmas.
That's right,
Well,
that's
just like a
right.
dusting.
But if that's helpful history that we should take into consideration as we rewrite the policy next year. That, you know, like in your division, we don't have the same staffing crunch that we once had, and we should be encouraging people for their mental and physical health to take some vacation.
I always do. They
Gotcha.
need to.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table for paying out the one-time up to 48 hours. Any further discussion? Chief, would you like to?
I just
weigh in?
want clarification, is that for the 4 employees that were brought forward today? I just want to make sure.
Yes, those are the only 4 who are
Okay,
currently
I just want to make
over.
sure, that's all.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we will pass that, and then we will put that, Karen, don't let us forget to circle back on that after we get through budget season and town meeting and everything.
You can have a copy if you need it.
That's all right. Unless you want it.
I don't need it.
Thank you. Are you all set with that? You're not getting up, chief.
I was just gonna say.
Did you hear me say we're trying to expeditiously
I was
go
just
through
gonna
the
say Merry
agenda?
Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we'll take that. We'll take
It
that.
didn't even cost you anything.
Oh, thanks, chief.
Thanks again. all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have energy and efficiency updates. Next, Rick, come on up. And in the packet, for anybody with the packet, we have the draft community power plan, updated of November 27th.
Packet or book?
In the book.
UC Circle.
Hi, welcome.
Were we supposed to read this whole book?
Yes.
I read it. I skimmed a few parts of it, but I read the important parts.
My podcast is coming out. So the last time I was here, the Energy Committee had recommended and we got approval to move forward with working with Standard Power on our Brentwood Community Power Plan. For the last 2 or 3 months, we have been working with them. We've been meeting approximately every 2 weeks. Standard Power has been sending a representative to all our meetings. We started with a template plan that they've used many times successfully. And by successfully, I mean it got New Hampshire PUC approval as meeting all the statutes, all the requirements of the program set out by the RSA. Of course, we refined it because our committee is very diligent and on wordsmithing and improving. Okay, so we have an excellent document now, even better than the one we started with. So that is in your packet. I'm here to answer any questions you might have on it. Hopefully, if it is approved, the next step in the process is to submit it to the PUC. They have 60 days to review it and either thumbs up or thumbs down. If they don't within 60 days, it's de facto approved or assumed to have been approved. We don't anticipate any issues there. And the other thing I would say is since the last time we met, we did have our 2 statutorily required public hearings that were successful, I think. We had 15 or 20 people here, answered a lot of questions. So yeah, I did bring some slides, but in the interest of time, I don't think you need a primer on community power and what it's supposed to be doing. I think you all kind of started the idea. So I'm more just interested in if you have any comments on the language that you'd like me to further explain or detail, or if you have recommended changes, that kind of stuff.
I had one question for you, Rick. Did your committee make any substantive changes as a result of the 2 public hearings?
No, I would say no substantive changes.
Okay. Because I knew I had seen the section about, people with solar need to be diligent and work carefully to decide whether it's in their benefit. And I know that had come up at one of the public
We
hearings.
did elect, after some discussion, to keep net metered customers treated as every other customer, which means if they're with a competitive supplier, they're not automatically enrolled. If they're not with a competitive supplier, they will be automatically enrolled, but we're going to specifically tailor the education materials for net metered customers because it's a bit confusing depending upon when your solar was installed, and how big it is compared to your home's consumption, as to whether or not it makes sense to go into community power. And Standard Power has dealt with this many times before. They try their best to reach out to every solar customer and have an individual conversation with them to the extent we can get their names and phone numbers without breaking some kind of privacy law. So at a minimum, we will do an extended education for those customers.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yep.
Board questions or comments on the power plan?
Yeah, so where are we in the planned schedule?
What section is that?
We're kind of like right at the
Section
beginning.
16. Page 18, towards the end.
Towards the end.
We're before that even.
Are we?
Yeah,
We're not on that.
Yeah, we're before that. We're on, getting the town approval, the select board approval of the, community power plan. Then it would go to PUC for approval. And that's just to be in parallel with town meeting, right? We could wait till after the town meeting, and you could potentially lose another 60 days. So we do it in parallel with prepping for the town meeting. We've submitted the warrant article language, which you'll be seeing in January, I believe. So then at the town meeting, there'd be a vote, and assuming that we move forward, we would then start working with with Standard Power on timing. You know, they'll start monitoring the market and kind of getting indicative prices from suppliers and kind of feeling things out to figure out the best time to launch. So we could be, because we want to launch with attractive rates, you know, so we don't want to go into the market when, goodness, we're higher than Eversource, we're higher than Unitil. Why would we lock in a higher rate and launch this new program at a higher rate? So we can defer and at the time or delay. So we would then enter kind of that period of working with our advisor or our community power consultant on the right time to act. And then we would kind of jump into that schedule.
Sounds like the summer at the earliest.
It may be the summer, yeah, but unless, if there's and you may have all seen Eversource's draft number came out at like 8.2 cents, which is as low as it's been in like
Very
2 or
low.
3 years.
Wow, yeah.
That's for February to July. And that shows you the weak temperatures so far in December has been driving down the natural gas market, and it's been like tanking the wholesale natural gas market, which is the direct corollary to the wholesale power market. So if we have a weak winter for temperatures, we could be in April or May of next year with an opportunity to lock in like a multi-year deal at 8 cents. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Or if it's a cold winter, you know, we could be back to where we were a year ago at 15, 18, 20 cents, you know, and then we might want to wait. So
Gotcha.
it's, luckily they're experts at this, and so we'll be working with them and bringing you recommendations when to jump into that schedule.
And I think that was one of the most helpful parts of the public hearings, was when Standard Power put up the graph kind of showing the Eversource market going up and down and up and down and up and down, and their rate just being flat and almost always lower than the Eversource rate. But even if it briefly, they flipped, it was brief, and then in sum total, it really kind of showed the just lack of volatility in this sort of a
Yep.
plan, which I thought was really, like, to me, the visual was really helpful to understand sort of why this would benefit most consumers in town.
Yep, it's predictable, stable,
Right.
and you don't get whipsawed twice a year, and
Right.
yeah.
Other questions from the board?
I don't have a question, just want to say how much I appreciate all the hard work.
Very much so. Very professional, excellent looking
Yeah.
document.
Yeah.
I guess my question is gonna be nothing to do with this, per se, but you're gonna give there's gonna be a warrant article at town meeting.
Correct.
And so we're gonna, y'all are gonna give a short kind of overview of, maybe have that graph be ready for come what may.
Be the graph, you said? What did-
The Everest, the.
Yeah,
Just,
we
yeah, whatever
could
kinda
include, we
information,
could
yeah.
include that, updated, you know, to.
I think like the most simple way to
Yeah,
really
Yep.
just drill down the
Mhm.
point that like, this is meant to save the town
Right.
money.
While potentially
Yeah.
allowing us to use more renewable energy sources. and
and
I-
like keep, in the biggest font that we could find, you know, the choice. You can get
opt
out at
out.
any time, you can
Yeah.
come back in,
Yeah.
there's no fee, it's more choice.
Right.
It's just more choices.
Yeah. just
Right, and if you have
emphasis on
solar and it
those.
doesn't work for you, you can opt out, but
Right.
feel free to vote yes, because your neighbors who don't have solar might want to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have 2 questions. Rick, do you foresee any more changes in this plan, or is this ready to go to council for review?
Nope, no more changes. Yep, we're
Your
good with
committee has
that.
voted on this as the final
Yep.
document.
Yep,
Okay. So yeah, I do think the council should look it over.
and
We
if I
could-
give them another crack at it, they'll find another typo or a comma they wanna add, so.
Okay.
And I love them dearly for it.
Could we do you need us to do a preliminary acceptance vote before council, or should we wait for council to review first?
Either is fine, whatever is your preference.
What would the board like to do?
Move we send this to council.
Sounds good. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Thank you so
Okay.
much. So hopefully they'll look it over, and as soon as they've given it the stamp of approval, we can do a final approval vote. And then, sounds like the warrant article, I think the language in that comes from the statute, doesn't it? Or somewhat, to some degree.
It's to some degree.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was a warrant article write-up that, no, we kind of took a lot of the language from the public hearing notice.
Oh, okay.
Which we had carefully, wordsmithed to be
Okay.
as informative and to the point as
Perfect.
possible, so that's kind of what we
Okay,
used.
so that will come before us next month.
Yep.
Perfect.
And then Rick, is it okay if I pass your email address on to Jack Mitchell? He's the chair of the budget committee, and then maybe the
Yeah.
2 of you can connect so that you can prepare something for the budget hearing.
Does
I
he
can
What
help
is that
you.
about? What is
There's
it?
no appropriations involved.
No,
It's a
what do you want to
non-budgetary
My
decision.
spidey senses went out.
Okay, never mind.
I think, I'm not opposed to the idea, but I think it's a non-appropriation, non-tax raising endeavor, so I'm
Yeah,
not sure
I think
it
it's
needs to. Yeah.
You don't wanna get involved?
It's like, whoa, I was sweating there for a minute.
Answer.
Oh, I remember the thing that you told me had gone by
I mean, it could
council
be
was
fun.
the
I
buyout.
bet it
Yeah,
sounds-
gotcha.
Sounds
Did you want to give us a brief update on the buyout of the solar?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Yeah, so we had gotten your approval to move forward with the buyout. Revision Energy gave us the buyout language, purchase and sale agreement. We arranged for a site visit, walk down with an electrician. I forget the person's name.
It's Tom Soterakopoulos,
Yeah.
this person.
Yeah. And when we got to the fire station, the solar equipment wasn't working. And we troubleshot a fault in a panel. And Revision, we're like, okay, well, this was a bit awkward. You're gonna replace that, right? Yeah. So they replaced it all
Convenient timing.
recently, got it working. They're gonna warranty, what they just put in addition to the other warranties that we'll be assuming. And the intention is, certainly to not close on the transaction until we see 2 or 3 good weeks of perfect performance as we'd expect. We had town council review the purchase and sale agreement and how it works with the PPA. We talked to her this morning, Karen and I, and she had a few comments that I'll reflect in the agreement, get it back to Revision. We still have to work out with Revision the exact structure of their O&M services agreement. We'll bring that to the select board at some point in the near future to approve us executing an O&M agreement with Revision Energy. And then we would link the two documents such that, you know, the O and M agreement doesn't take effect until closing on the purchase and sale agreement. And we expect that to happen, you know, it's all just holidays and people time, so late January, something like that.
Okay.
We'll probably get it done, and then it'll be ours.
Cool.
Do we know how long the array was down? Was it just happened to be that day it went down, or had been
It
down?
had happened a day or two before, yeah. It was like, you know, a home inspection, you're about to sell your house and there's water leaking, you know, from the sheetrock, you know, it's like, this is nice. So yeah, it just been a couple days, yeah. But there had been an issue with one of the inverters as well, earlier in the summer. We've got a brand new inverter that they replaced. So that's why I say, let's have 2 or 3 weeks of pristine operation and then we'll do it, you know.
And Rick, once we own the array, will your committee advise us on potential sale of the rec credits?
Yep, that's fairly easy. Yeah, we'll get it set up so that it should only be a couple hours of junk every year to
Okay.
deal with those.
Okay.
But yeah, we will advise you on that.
Great, so that'll be another revenue source for town.
Yep.
Great, thanks.
Yep. All right, thank you all.
Thank you so much.
much.
You got it.
Thank you. All
Happy
right.
holidays.
Thank you, you too.
Karen, should we might have talked about this, set up a revolving account for solar so that we can use the
Maintenance fees? The
money
recs.
Use the rec to pay for maintenance.
to pay for maintenance, or,
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. I forget what the rec sell it for. Is it like $5,000 or something?
I think that's the average.
Something
that they
like
quote
that.
a year.
So that's something we can put on the to-do list.
I don't get that much.
I just want to, say, just pause for a moment and just recall when we created the Energy and Efficiency Committee, there were people, a minority, a vocal minority, who fought tooth and nail against it. And the dividends are so obvious. I think it's worth noting that, the care that went into that, and the fact that we've ended up with one of the more important committees in the town.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for all their expertise and hard work, and especially even just creating this, 50-something page document, or it's amazing. Like, the work that they've done is amazing. I'm very thankful for them, and agree with you. It was a good subcommittee for us to create. All right, anything else on that before we move on? Okay. Next is rec alternate appointments and statements of interest. We've got those that are after the power plan in your packet.
There are 2 alternate positions that are open. The rec commission reviewed all of the applications, and their recommendation is to reappoint Valerie Rogers for 1 year and to appoint David Mentor as an alternate for 1 year.
And there were no other applicants.
That's correct.
Comments from the board? You have their statements of interest, and you also have the letter from Andy Gray in your packet.
For what it's worth, I wholeheartedly support both of the candidates.
Does that sound like a motion?
Sure.
Sounds like a motion to me. Other conversation, we have a motion on the table to appoint David Mentor and Valerie Rogers.
Second.
Any other discussion or comments? All in favor?
aye?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so thank you to those applicants for volunteering their time, and they will be appointed as 2 alternates. Next, we will talk about the BRC driveway improvements. John, I think that might be you.
All right, so we'll be real clear about what I'm asking for. You want me to use the screen?
Yeah,
I think you shut it off.
definitely,
With the remote.
if you can.
Where did you find the remote?
Letty hit it.
She put it in her bag,
No,
didn't she?
she. You took it home. We know.
Put it in your backpack.
Yeah, whatever.
Or with the name tags, which
It's fine, Letty. No one's. What's that upset? All right, so I'm not asking for money tonight. There will be money involved, and we'll talk about those amounts tonight. But tonight, I'm just gonna explain to you what we're aiming to do, and then hopefully answer any questions that you may have. For quite a while and multiple times over the last several months, you all have heard discussions about how dangerous this road currently used for people driving in from 125 and then driving up between the two ball fields. Snack Shack's here, the porta potties are here, and they drive up and they go to them to the back fields. So huge safety concern with this road as it currently is, particularly with the thousands of people that are using the rec on a daily basis, most weekends. What we're aiming to do, and this sketch is courtesy of Steph Kizza, is to shut this road off at both ends with a gate, probably a chain at first, and build a road, an access road that will come in. This is a little bit off. Road center is going to be here, so it'll probably come just up to the pitcher's mound, and come all the way through here. The water tower, we added a little bit of money to move the water tower. The water tower sits right about here, so we're gonna the water tank. We're gonna move the water tank down a bit and build this road, this access gravel road through the right field first base line of the current Olson field, and the plan will be to repurpose this field as the new T-ball field. Makes a lot more sense than having it as a Little League field. T-ball kids cannot hit it into the road, right? The Little League kids do regularly. And then the Olson field will be shifted down to the lower field where the current T-ball field is right now. Sorry, I have to keep this moving, or else it's gonna do that. So that's the goal. The goal of the project really is this critical safety issue and addressing that as quickly as we possibly can. Had a conversation with Wayne and Chief Ventura earlier today. Wayne, do you want to come up here? Is it easier? Wayne has some finances still left in his budget for this year. There are some urgent needs over at the shed related to the new building. We've got to make sure that water is not going to be coming into it, so that there is use for most of those funds. This project will take up about $62,000 to $65,000. We've gotten actual quotes on the logging, on the gravel, putting the gravel road in, the culverts, and so I'm not coming to you asking for money yet because there's still a little bit of due diligence we would like to do, but this tracks with what we were talking about earlier today. About $62,000 roughly out of the remaining highway budget to address the issue. My request of the board, though, is to waive the standard RFP process strictly due to the fact that we just don't have enough time to go out and get all of the quotes, go through a whole RFP process. It simply won't work. But what we are trying to do, I am getting multiple quotes particularly on the big chunk of this, which is the access road construction itself. So I have a quote, it's in the packet now from MWS Paving on the access road itself. And then I have a meeting tomorrow with RC Cooper Paving, they're gonna meet me out there, and we're gonna walk the property again and see if we can get another quote. Just, we're gonna be trying as hard as we can to make sure that we do this right. So.
Karen, what's the time frame if we wanted to encumber unspent funds for this?
You should have that accomplished by beginning of January.
Beginning of January, so in 2023 calendar year if possible.
If possible, but it's not necessary. We can
And technically, we could do it tonight, because we do have the quotes
But you have
for lumber.
additional upcoming.
And I would like to do a little bit more due diligence, and that's why I'm asking, for us to at least understand this in principle, what we're driving toward, understand that we have these quotes, that we've had the conversation with the appropriate department in terms of the budgetary issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
And generally, folks will still have bills, 2023 bills up to the 10th of January of '24. And so they'll want to sort of flush out those invoices before they have a more solid number on what's available to them.
Oh, I see, in terms of what excess funds we have.
Yeah.
So at our January 2nd or January 9th meeting, we could potentially have that discussion?
Yep.
Okay. And in terms of waiving the standard RFP process, it sounds like you are going out and getting a couple of bids, you're just not doing sort of like the standard publicized RFP?
That's correct, and my understanding is this board has the authority to do that, so that's why I'm asking. I'm also asking that we don't approve the quotes today, so specifically so that I can go out and get more to show us. But in principle, I'd just like you to be clear about what it is that we're doing, how we're doing it, where we're going with it, address why we're doing it, safety reasons, etc.
What's the authority, John, for that?
I asked Karen.
So we have a formal bid policy that the select board signs annually that says if there's an expenditure in your budget that is budgeted
Right.
for up to $5,000, a department head is allowed to spend. Anything between $5,000 and $10,000, they should get written bids and then
Right.
bring them to the select board for approval. Anything over 10 requires a formal RFP, and then the select board still has to issue the notice of award for an RFP.
I'm sorry.
And so it's this is the select board's
Policy.
Your own
Policy.
policy, yes.
so it's our
So
policy.
if we wanted to waive
that
or
we
amend
can-
it, we could.
we can waive.
Do you have any concerns about us not doing an RFP if we get some other competitive bids? So Karen has no concerns. Wayne, do you have any concerns about this?
Yeah, I want to fill you guys in what's up. I'm still doing work down
Sure.
the highway shed. We still have, still have PBD Drive and Pickpocket Road to fix,
Yep.
okay? I've got a price already, we already got a price up, but on PBD Drive, I only got part of that. Now, if we're gonna do anything more with the pond, that's gonna be more money, and I don't know how much that's gonna be yet, down there. But I have the money, that's the reason, one reason why I stopped, we stopped about part way, didn't finish all of, South Road.
Yep.
Because I had to save money to fix that down there. Now, I'm not sure how much money we have left in that 350,000, because I know we didn't spend all that for hot topping. So I got money there, so I don't know. I'm trying to get it, I talked to John Bell, and he's getting me the price of what it's gonna cost to finish that road. And also, I had John Bell come up and measure the highway driveway, because we gotta hot top that around the new building and everything. Well, he come up there and he started to measure it, but we ran into a little problem, and it could be make a little bigger problem for us, is the floor on the new shed is right level with the ground that's there now. If he puts hot top down there, you can't put gravel down, cause it's gonna bring it too high, and when you hot top it, it's gonna be higher than what the doors at the bottom of the floor is. So, the hot top that we already have out front and everything, that's over 20 years old, and there's a lot of places in that are starting to crack. To fix that back down there, to fix it upright, is we're gonna reclaim that whole thing and then start from the road and work it down, work all the material down around the building so we can hot top it, and we'll put a binder on it. The binder that they have now, that they have, is got top in it, so it will last over 5 years. We got up to 5 years to do anything, cause it makes it harder. All our roads are the same now, they use the same mix. And, but he's putting it all together to see what it's gonna cost. He did that last Friday, and he's gonna get it back to me as soon as I can, so I can have both of them to see where I stand. I wanted to come in and tell you guys just what's going on.
And what
there.
we had talked about earlier today was that, you know, we'll have, we know we have a rough concept of what we have left in the budget now. We know that we'll move it, we have these other projects that need to happen, and then we'll aim to use the respective funds from 23 and 24 to make sure that all of the necessary projects.
I mean, like I told him, I just use some of this money to get something started, so if we don't get it, the hot top it this year, then we have to put it down and we'll get a warrant article or something and go for the next year. But what the problem is during about time in March, is out back, out there where the shed is, that's gonna mud up and you can't drive on it. We can't even get salt trucks in there when that happens, it gets muddy, they sink. You got so much water in the ground that's there, and they go down 3 feet, you hit water, and it's all sand, so that's the problem we're gonna have, but if we can get it started so we can hot top, then that will work out.
Okay, so it sounds like there's
I
some
mean,
known projects that need to be kind of figured
Yeah.
out.
And the other thing that I have going on is I wanted to let Karen know that I got one tree over on Scrabble Road that we got to take down. It's 62 Scrabble Road, I believe. They've been hollering, they want to get that tree down. And that tree, I got an estimate to take that down. We have to use a crane and get that down, and it's going to be $2,800. I have $2,700 in that line item. So I'll have to, but I wanted to encumber that money because he's got me on an appointment. He said he might not be able to get to it in February, so I didn't want to spend that money until, till we can get it. I didn't want to lose that money
Sure.
for this year. I wanted to try to get that.
Did you look up how much was left in there?
Wayne has plenty of money. In the warrant article,
Yeah, or just overall?
in his budget, he has almost 200,000
Okay.
remaining, and in his warrant article, there's 34,000.
Okay.
And the work on Pickpocket and Peabody Drive, that's a FEMA declaration, so that will all be reimbursed.
Great.
FEMA.
FEMA's gonna pay us
Oh,
back for
that's
that
right.
flood damage.
I forgot about that.
So you'll
they'll
spend
do
it,
the
but it'll
swale
get
too.
paid back.
Yeah.
So that'll help the financial
Yeah.
situation.
Do you
Yeah, I
have,
forgot about FEMA. We had them last week.
do you have a quote in there for the tree?
I think I got it down to sheds.
Okay.
$2,800. That's what that's gonna be to get it down.
Andy, do you have a comment?
Karen, did you say there was 3,500 left in the warrant article?
34,000.
34,000? I don't think the warrant article could be used to either project of the highway department or the rec center, because it's
It's town
strictly
roads.
Repairs.
town roads, not driveways. But you could expend money out of Wayne's budget.
Makes sense.
You don't think this will qualify as an access road?
That's his bottom line where he's at.
But
What did-
between
how did
PBD
we-
Drive and
What did we use to hot top the rec
his budget,
We encumbered funds to do that.
out of his budget?
I think it was out of Wayne's.
But PB Drive and anything, other road work.
Yep.
Can be.
Yep.
Out of that
Coming
35,000.
out of there. Okay.
But it's looking like even with those projects that Wayne is doing, and then we'll get some covered by FEMA, we should have the funds, if it's a 50,000-60,000 rec road for the next couple weeks, we should be able to cover that out of the existing budget without any taxpayer impact.
I think
Okay.
so.
Just,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
You first.
Yes, thanks. And just so I understand, for because it's a board policy, that means that we have the authority to waive the policy?
It's stated in the policy, so any department head could come to the board and ask that policy be waived for various circumstances.
And we've done it before.
Okay. All right, just want to make sure.
My only other question was if Wayne looked at the scope of work for NWS paving, if that's,
No.
the gravel and everything else is good enough to, I mean, we don't,
Kip looked at it,
okay,
but,
we just, I don't wanna do something there to do something and then have it fail in a year after the warranty's expired.
yeah, no, absolutely. But Kip took a look at it and before we did anything, my plan was to actually drop off the Cooper and the NWS.
Be nice if Ellen Flynn, who's done all the work up there, could actually take a look at it too.
Yeah, I mean, if John Bell's interested in
Doing a gravel road for us.
doing a gravel road, love to get his input.
Okay.
Yeah, we clearly have a good, long-standing relationship with them.
Good winter job.
That's true. Is there any issue with, I know it crosses that area that's wet, there's just, that's where the culvert will go, so that they don't see that as being any problem? The
Yeah,
very start where the road comes off near the blacksmith shop is where that little stream
that's the
kind of
culvert.
goes? That's where there's a culvert, okay.
Yeah. That's what you were talking about?
Yeah.
The-
So if we get a second and or third bid in a, relatively, it's just a couple of week period of time. I think I would be okay without.
I tried.
Yeah, we'll figure that out later.
Tell us you never go to sleep. Didn't happen at all last night.
Does anyone on the board have an issue with waiving the RFP if we get some other bids before we have to do the encumbrance? Okay, hearing none, it looks like you have sort of a general go-ahead, and
Great.
we'll hear back from you in maybe 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay,
Do you want a
Perfect.
formal motion to waive the RFP?
should we get a formal motion? I'll take a motion to waive the RFP process.
Motion.
Any
You-
second?
Second.
I vote on this? Asking?
You
Yeah, vote on
I
it,
mean,
yeah,
just with
absolutely.
the idea, or with the condition that we get,
That there'll be additional bids.
yeah,
Yes.
so can we add that as a friendly?
Sure, with the
I-
condition that there'll be additional bids.
Okay, I mean, I'm not promising, I'm trying.
Due diligence
I'm
to get
trying
one
to
or
get
more
additional bids.
additional
Right.
bids, if
Right.
time it allows.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
And I'm an aye, so let us know how it goes.
I will, thank you
Okay,
so much.
perfect.
Thank you, Wayne.
All right.
Thanks, Wayne.
Next up, we have conservation alternate appointments. Those are next in your packet. We have a letter from the chair, and then we have the applications of the 3 applicants.
There's 2 positions available and 3 applications that were received.
And one of these was from Jess Belucas stepping back, right?
That was the second
Yep.
position, yep.
Okay, perfect.
And then the other position was Becky moving up after Mark Young resigned.
Correct, correct. So we have a letter here from the Conservation Committee recommending 2 of the 3 candidates. And then the board has all 3 applications here. I suspect there's going to be some conversation about this. I think there should be. So I'm interested in the board's thoughts on the applications and thoughts on which 2 folks we may want to appoint as alternates.
I have a comment.
Please do.
I guess before voting, I'd like to hear from the people, so can we invite them?
Yeah, interestingly enough, it looked like they all waived their opportunity to speak to the Conservation Committee, is that correct? That's what it said in your letter.
asked if they would like to
Yeah.
stand up, they were all present and all declined.
Yeah,
and
so
mean,
I
given-
think we absolutely could if that's what this board would like to do.
I mean, given that we're dealing with 3 people for 2 positions.
Wayne and Bob.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
That would be my preference to do, at least
We
invite,
certainly
you
could.
know, them in for the next meeting, and whoever comes, comes. If they don't wanna come, then
We
I
could
guess
certainly
that
do
says
that.
something too.
Okay, so that's one idea out on the table. Other thoughts or comments?
I like that.
I would agree with that if I may speak. I think that would be a good suggestion to have them come and speak.
Sure. I think that would be really helpful for me as well. I liked the idea of potentially trying to get some younger folks onto some of our committees, but I have to admit, I don't really know much about Patrick or his background in conservation, so I think that might be helpful. I think Rob Wolfchuk's background is very clear. I think also Jim Hajar, his background, he obviously has a lot of interest, but his background in conservation wasn't super clear to me from his application. I will say that I was a little surprised to see the board not recommend Rob Wolfchuk. And I think the board should seriously consider him as a candidate, and I'm sure he'd be happy to come speak to the board. He, in my opinion, has the most experience of any one of these 3 candidates. So I was a little bit disappointed to see that vote. But that committee is allowed to vote how they see fit, and we had changed the process so that the final decision does come through this board. Other thoughts or comments?
Agreed.
Anyone else have any comments? So can we invite them January 2nd? And if that doesn't work, maybe January 9th? Okay, perfect.
January 2?
That's our next meeting, so yeah, I think we could invite them. That is kind of close to the holiday, so if that doesn't work for multiple folks, we could offer the 9th. Great,
Is this an open public,
sure,
is this an open public process, this discussion?
Bob
of
Stevens,
candidates?
Mulder Drive.
sure, yeah, it'll be in public at our next meeting as part of an agenda item. Correct?
Or the 9th,
I'm sorry?
or January 9th.
Right, correct.
Or not, okay.
All right, sounds like a good plan.
Will Karen extend that invitation, or should I contact them?
I can do it. Sounds like Karen will take care of it. So we'll defer that to January 2 or 9. And then next on here, we have the web property. The last page of your packet includes a, Becky, I think you probably wrote this one-page summary? Yeah. So a one-page summary. Do you feel like it'd be helpful to come up here and address this at all to the board, or do you?
I'd be happy to come up and answer any
Sure.
questions. I also brought with me a copy of the tax map that shows the property.
Okay,
So it is, and that's one thing I did not put in the description was it's tax map 2012, property 2012-12, I believe.
can you get that up on the screen?
No.
Probably not, since it was just handed to us.
219, I'm sorry, 219-12, I think.
I can photocopy this and then
219-12.
scan it to John.
Does it-
You can email?
Pull it up in the database.
Does it have?
That's true, we could probably just pull it up.
Can I Apple stream to it?
Probably. We'll find out.
Hold on.
It's a new setup. We're trialing it out.
With respect, we all have copies.
I apologize, 2012, I brought my tax maps
I'll
with
see if I
me.
can get it up while you
Yeah.
talk.
Andy can see if he can get it up, and then, ooh, that was,
Yeah,
that was interesting. Save it.
Very good.
If he
Moving
can
along.
bring it
That's
up on the
recorded.
TV.
That's recorded.
And we will move forward on that. So the question before the board is, my understanding, Becky, from your letter, is that you're really looking for us to consider what you have detailed in this letter as option 1, option 2, or option 3,
Right.
as it comes to the web property.
I'm doing that because there were some questions at one of the last 2 meetings, whether trying to put into conservation one of the last parcels the largest parcels that are on Pine Road. And before we went any farther to speak with Mrs. Webb or incur any expenses, I just wanted a sense.
Yeah.
Option 1 would be to purchase, and according to town council, we could purchase the entire parcel, put it all into conservation. Most of it is wetlands in the back.
Mhm.
Option 2 would be to approach Mrs. Webb to determine if she would be interested in separating out the back woodlands and putting that into conservation, and the front would remain commercial, so there would be revenue from the commercial portion. Those details have not been discussed, so that's an unknown. The third is if all of this fails, then the property would not be pursued.
It's map 212.
It borders Pine Road, it's between the yogurt place, Kevin Johnston's, and I forgot what the business is on the other side. The property does overlap with Exeter borders, that a portion of it is in Exeter, and there's conservation on the other side of the border. So it would link up with a lot of open space, conservation land in Exeter, Newfields. I think it's the Connor family conservation in Newfields.
That's state-owned.
Yeah.
You said part of the parcel is actually in Exeter?
Yes,
Or-
you don't see it on this because I only have the Exeter, but there's a little wedge.
Oh, so,
The town
oh,
line.
this little
Yes.
dotted line is
Yes.
the town line?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What do they want to do with the portion that's in Exeter?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I'm sorry. I don't know, that's what we have to find out, what Mrs. Webb has outlined or what's on her mind about that.
Gotcha.
There are a lot of, there are unknowns, but I just wanted to know if there's any concern about approaching a piece of property that has commercial value as it now stands.
How, what is the rough amount of money that we were talking about?
We hadn't discussed funds with Mrs. Webb, but it was listed by Merrill Bartlett Agency, I think for, Bob knows,
$1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah, again, you know, Bob, you and I have talked about this before. My feeling is I can't.
There we go.
This is where we are. This is Exeter.
Yep.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
Pine Road. Mhm.
This is the property.
Yep.
I personally cannot fathom spending $1 million on seven acres that are possibly developable.
Is that that's this little front section right by Pine Road is the dry section?
Yep.
That looks like it's cleared in this particular photo that we have in front of us?
If the purpose of this is to conserve land that could be developed, which is kind of my interpretation of what this money is meant for, spending that much taxpayer money for conserving 7 acres seems an inefficient use of resources to me.
So that would be option 1,
Cool.
right,
If,
okay.
yeah, if we were to buy it
Right.
outright,
Right,
correct. So of the 97 acres of the property, it's estimated that about 7 acres are commercially buildable?
Well, it says 8 to 10 up on this
Oh,
page.
8 to 10?
7 was in my mind based on
8 to
previous
10.
conversations.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, it says it on here,
Yep.
8 to 10 acres suitable for commercial development. Okay.
It says 8+ acres, commercial industrial, out
Yep.
parcel,
Yep.
parcel.
Gotcha.
And only 80 of the acres are in Brentwood, the rest is in
Right.
Exeter.
So 17 are in this little
They're in that
section
section,
over
yeah.
here, and, okay, so 80. Okay, so that one option that was just discussed would be Brentwood buying the property outright. Option 2 would be the current owner deciding to subdivide, presumably to kind of separate the commercial
Mhm.
section
Mhm.
from the wetland section.
Mhm.
And if we did that, what would be the idea?
To retain it as open space and into conservation, and it links with a conservation parcel across the
So
border
we would
into Exeter.
spend-
That they would want to sell it, or that they would put a conservation easement on the property?
That's what we need to determine with Mrs. Webb.
But it's not really developable if it's
No.
wetland.
No, it's not.
Not at
I
this
mean-
point.
I mean-
It is wet, it is wet.
So you see, my dilemma is
Mhm.
this, it's not developable.
Mhm.
I don't understand why we would spend money to,
So I don't agree with purchasing the land, but I do agree with purchasing easements. I mean, not only
on
is-
wetland?
But that's which part of conservation is to do, is preserve habitat of wildlife.
Yeah.
It's not just to stop building houses, it's also to preserve land for habitat.
And water resources.
And water resources, yeah.
But I guess my question would
My
be, I
comments
agree with you.
sparked a lot of conversation in the audience.
Well, and I agree with you on that, but I guess my thought is protect that property from what?
It's a number thing, though. That's the problem.
What do you mean?
Like, what would it cost to buy the development?
Sure.
Like,
Presumably, if the back half is all wet,
and you could buy
it wouldn't cost that much to block development rights, right?
Right.
So to buy a conservation easement on that property, I think the board might be willing to entertain to actually purchase it. If it's a lot of money, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But I guess what I'm asking is, so let's say, usually when you buy a conservation easement, you are saying to the landowner, I agree, I will not sell this to a developer to build a housing development. But already they can't do that on this land, right? So what would we be protecting that land from? Could a developer come in and fill it? But then if they do, they have to pay a huge fine, right?
They would have to contribute to the ARM fund, which is a state.
So there's a
fund.
theoretic, there could be some disruption by a new owner of that wetlands space. So your easement would be protecting from
I
some
mean, they
theoretic,
would have to get approval
harm.
to do that
correct, from the planning board,
before they did it.
correct,
also.
correct.
So they can't just.
I'm just doing like the thought experiment of
Yeah.
like, you know, my understanding of what the taxpayers wanted was protect land from things that could happen to it that we don't want to happen to it. So I'm trying to understand what could happen to this land. It sounds like it's pretty theoretical that something could happen to this wetlands. Planning board, is Paul saying yes, he's shaking his head. Okay.
It was clear in my throat, but I'll shake my head.
I'll take it.
I will
You
shake
mean
my
you
head
weren't
too.
giving me positive affirmation?
Yeah.
I thought that's what you were doing, Paul. All right. So, and then the third option would be just waive,
Right.
you know, all interest.
But second has the provision to at least have the conversation with Mrs. Webb to find
Could it-
out any interest she might have. I don't know if she'd
Sure.
donate anything,
Gotcha.
just to not eliminate that possibility altogether.
I mean, if Mrs. Webb is interested in subdividing and selling the buildable commercial lot for a profit, wouldn't that just be her personal family financial decision that is not really, the town doesn't
No.
really need to weigh in on that, right? That's her
No,
decision
it's
as a
zoned commercial
landowner.
industrial, she has the right to
Right.
sell it or do what she will. If she's interested in subdividing it, there may be something for Brentwood in that down the road.
Right.
But a conversation before we say no, to at least determine that.
Does anyone see a harm in a conversation about what they might be looking for if we were not willing to buy the property outright?
I wouldn't even ask me to have a conversation, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the Conservation Commission hearing some months ago discussing this property. So, and I think we talked about it here following that. I don't know exactly why we're still talking about it. I'm for option 3.
Well, the board did vote to at least have a conversation with Mrs. Webb to send.
Is
couple
this
people.
recently, Becky?
That was in the, what is this, December, it was in the November. I postponed it due to other things, and it was discussed again on the 13th to at least have a conversation.
Relatively recent.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, so Conservation Commission is an advisory committee to this board.
Yes.
So if your board feels that you would like to have this conversation with this homeowner, why do you need us involved at this point? Unless there's a contingency in that conversation that you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anything stopping your board from having that conversation with an interested homeowner. I think we would only need to approve that conversation if there's something on the hook that we have to agree to. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with you.
Okay.
The question is in option 1, and that came up from a planning board member not to purchase the property. And I just wanted a clear decision that no, we would not
Gotcha.
consider purchasing the entire
Gotcha.
parcel.
Oh, okay. Therefore,
So I'm
having the
clearing the
subsequent
path.
conversation would
Yes,
make sense.
I'm
Okay.
clearing the path.
So maybe we should answer that question for Becky at this board. Is there anyone here that is in favor of us potentially doing an all-out purchase of this property? I'm seeing 2 no heads. I already heard you say no. So we can take a vote if you want, but that's 3 people out of 5. So it looks to me like that would not be a positive
Okay,
move forward to
Okay.
purchase outright that
Okay.
land. Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
So then I will go ahead
sounds
and
like
have a
option 2 is
conversation.
worth
Yep.
trialing and see,
At
and then,
least, yep.
and then if you come back to us with a suggestion for what your board would like to do for some sort of easement or something, then we would certainly consider that.
Sure, that would be fine. trying to be cautious with any funds we might
No, I
expend.
that helps me understand why you've come to us, because you weren't gonna do two until one was
Right.
clarified.
Right.
So I think that makes perfect sense, and we will let your board take the next steps.
Madam Chair, would it be appropriate to, I did see that there was some interest in folks having some comments on this.
I think there's probably a lot of comments about this. I don't know that they're necessarily for our board at this time. If you feel strong, I mean, this is an issue that there's nothing to vote on in front of us tonight. So hearing people's opinions might be best at a conservation committee, but if you feel like you would like to, we certainly can. I don't know if we want to have an extensive conversation about this.
I don't
Tonight.
intend to have any sort of prolonged conversation, but I do think out of general respect, I would like to hear those comments.
Okay.
If that's
I'm willing to do that. Yeah, usually we don't allow public comment unless the board sort of thinks it's going to be helpful to the discussion. So I would be willing to do so. So it looks like we have at least 3 people interested in speaking. If you wouldn't mind,
Can we-
Becky, if you wouldn't mind
We'll do-
letting people come up to the
Timer.
mic. Yeah, why don't we do, we're gonna do like a 3-minute, sure. Who would like to go first? Doesn't matter to me.
Letty Bedard, Middle Road, speaking as me. Under current zoning, you can't build on that, as we are literally sitting on top of a swamp. So that would be the only thing that I would say, that under current zoning, it can't be built on, but we don't know what's gonna happen in 50 years. So that would be
Sure.
a reason to consider.
Point taken. Hey, you only used like 10 seconds.
that
Good
was
job.
pretty awesome.
Next. Which one of you guys wants to go next? Bruce? Come on up.
Bruce
So Bruce Stevens, South Road. And it's, I guess, one of the interesting statements that came in, I think, Becky's presentation was that a previous potential buyer of the property, maybe had a purchase and sale on it, declined because of the wetlands. So knowing how valuable that property could be if it were developable, I'm certain that the person who did the wetland study, the wetland investigation, was a PE, professional engineer that stamped it. So it's very strange to me that the Webb's family who would like to sell this wouldn't be up front and present that data from the wetland scientist so we could all see what it entailed. I'm also concerned that there's been an ongoing junkyard operation on a portion of that property for well over 30 years. Up through the time, I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, we can check this out. I sent Becky an email asking the same question today. It was a junkyard operated by Robert Webb for, again, 30 plus years. Only ceased operation in the last 18 months when he passed away. So there's potentially, with any junkyard, contamination issues there. So I hate to see the town of Brentwood saddle with some remediation. I don't know if any studies would be done. It's again suspicious that the seller is not more open with the technical investigations that have obviously gone on. No, it's also true that Brentwood has strict wetland ordinances and regulations, but the state does as well. So the state trumps town regulations. Towns are stricter than the state, but that's how it is. So you can't even drive a vehicle through wetland property legally. You can't even drive your vehicle through it. So the value, to me, of the wetland portion, the non-buildable portion, would have to be near zero. I mean, I could see that there might be an advantage to the Webb family if they were able to sell the 7 or 8 acres of upland soil. That would be a tax write-off against the gain that they have on the upland, because they've owned it forever, and the whatever that fiscal word is for what you owe on it versus what it's worth. It could potentially, I guess, if there's no contamination in the site, if the town could acquire it for next to nothing. I mean, I just don't understand how the property could have any value if it's wet and unbuildable. And so my
20 seconds.
Yeah, so my concern is that the Conservation Commission, in some of their earlier discussions, talked about having a wetland scientist go out and a soil scientist go out. And those are all costs that the town of Brentwood to me, shouldn't be picking up, because that's part of the value that the seller needs to demonstrate that they have something that's worthwhile. So I heard the figure of what, $18,000 involved in the first all-round of studies, the first layer of studies. So it just seems completely ridiculous that we would.
Thank you for your comments.
Food coma.
Yes, but I do want to say one other thing, in talking to Glenn Greenwood about this process.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
But he did say that if there was some value to the water potential on the property, what we heard from the community breakfast there, that, hey, maybe if you could acquire it for the right amount of money.
Okay, thank you. Bob, come on up.
To add to what Bruce just said, Mrs. Webb did renew the junkyard permit after he passed away. So
There
that
is
a-
an active
it's an
junkyard
active
permit?
Yes.
I thought that was on the other side where they built the storage sheds. It was not on the side, the north side of Middle Road. I
Bob's-
used to drive by every
I'd have to
day.
double check the parcel ID,
Yeah.
but she does have an active
Bob
junkyard permit.
Stevens, 60 Northrop Drive. I'm really just here to clarify a bunch of misunderstanding that's going on with this property. We don't know that it's unbuildable back there because we don't have a wetlands assessment, and we wanted to procure a wetlands assessment to help us make that decision. That's the first thing. Second thing is, we've been told that the owner would like $1 million for this property, but they sold the 8 acres out front, that's industrial developable land, that will be subtracted from the $1 million. And that is likely to be a fair amount of money. I don't know how much, but that would diminish the $1 million by quite a lot, I believe. There's 3 major steps in this process that I know of: the wetlands assessment, the environmental site assessment, and the property assessment, or the appraisal. Those things need to be done before we know if it's worthwhile for us to conserve this. And we're really asking because we don't want to spin our wheels if the answer is no, no matter what. That's why I believe why Becky is here, and why I'm here to support her. The last thing I want to say is that I do this for a living. I'm a licensed professional engineer in New Hampshire. It's a simple matter for me to go to a few databases and see how this land has been used. I've looked at aerial photographs since the 80s of this property. There's no evidence of a junkyard on it. The Webbs certainly own a junkyard and a metal salvage operation, but as far as I can tell from the aerial photographs, it's not on this property. So, there are people vehemently against this, the procurement of conservation for this property. I'm not really sure why, but the reasons, an awful lot of them that are being given are not correct. I mean, it's not $1 million, it's $1 million less the value of the land out front, which is the most valuable part of the property.
Which is, I think, why option 2 makes sense, because the property would have to be subdivided before we had further conversations.
I get that. That is a way to do this. I would caution us all not to take any ways off the table, because we don't know what properties are gonna come along in the future, and we don't know how we might want to conserve them. As long as what we're doing is not illegal, then we ought to consider doing it. And if we can buy this property, I'm not saying we should, but if it's as an option, we can buy this property and sell off the industrial part, or, I'm sure we can possibly arrange a deal with Mrs. Webb or the Webb family. But however we go about doing it, that process isn't out yet. And I can tell you that from my experience in the last 3 or 4 years on the Concom, observing this process here and talking to others in the land conservation realm, all kinds of creative ways are used to conserve property. And why would we not avail ourselves to all of them?
In terms of your suggestion that we purchase the property and then make some changes to it, town council has explicitly advised us that we could not use the warrant money to do that.
Awesome.
So what you're suggesting.
So we know the answer to that.
Correct, which
Yeah.
I think had been shared with you previously and with the Concom previously.
I didn't know that town council had said that, so I'd heard that was the response, but I don't think I knew it was the town council.
That is the town council's response, that we could not use our current bond money to do what you are suggesting. So
I'm not
therefore, it's
suggesting
off
it,
the
I'm just
table.
suggesting it as an
Or
option.
suggesting we consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
So if if Concom comes back to us with some option 2 for us to discuss, sure, but that, us subdividing it after purchasing it is not going to happen.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. All right.
I heard that. Thank you. Kathy told me.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our discussion action items. We do now move on to regular business. Karen, we'll start with you as usual.
I just have a letter to Health Trust that needs to be signed by the board requesting a proposal to be rated with the school.
Thank you.
And I believe we had already voted or agreed on this at our prior meeting.
And I sent a copy to Letty to share with the school board to address at their next meeting.
And that's completely non-binding, just a quote
Correct.
request, right? Perfect.
Correct. It commits neither party to anything.
Another Andrew.
I know.
Um,
There's a few Andrews around.
One more question I have is our landfill disposal budget is looking very tight. There's $4,000 remaining in the budget right now, and we still have a few weeks of tonnage that will remain outstanding that still needs to be billed and invoiced to be paid. I would like to request a transfer from the insurance benefits budget to the waste disposal budget to cover that overage so that it doesn't look like.
Sorry, from which to which?
From the insurance benefits budget. So all of our 2023 invoices have been paid to Health Trust, and there still remains $19,000 in that budget. So I'd like to transfer that so that it doesn't
The whole
affect
amount?
coverage. Just 15.
15?
Will be enough.
And we had discussed, this is really just a bookkeeping issue, right? I mean, we're paying our bills no matter what,
You're,
so.
you're just moving money around.
Right.
I don't see,
Do you need a motion?
Yes, please.
Moved.
Second.
Are you opposed
Is
to
that
it,
okay?
Andy?
I'm not opposed
It's
to it,
just,
it's just, I don't
it's just
think it's
massaging
needed,
it.
but it's just,
What I was saying to Karen when we discussed it is that I think as long as it's clear, you know, when we move forward with you know, future budgets, that we realize we overspent that line and that we need to budget it appropriately, I just don't want us to lose that in the shuffle, but I don't think we will.
And it was increased for the 2024 proposed budget.
Do you think, if you had to predict right now, do you think what we budgeted for next year will cover us, or do you think we'll end up tight again?
I'll have to look at it again
See.
closer. Well, part of this was the cleanup on 3 Smith Road was
Right.
overrun, and so the encumbrance didn't cover all of those costs and was pulled out of that budget.
Okay, so we might
So
do
that was a
better
portion
next
of
year.
that.
Gotcha, okay. So I think there was a motion to move 15,000 from one line to the other. Was there a second? There was a second. All in favor?
I,
And I'm an aye. I think
Thank
it's
you.
either way would be fine. Perfect. Okay, what else do you have for us?
That concludes my business.
That concludes her business. So we'll move to committee updates or any other board items, and we'll start with Andy.
I just wanted to follow up on discussion earlier about hazardous waste. Karen, we don't do a standalone, we're part of, with the Southern New Hampshire, so we are part of a group during that.
It's not
the
town.
Southeast Regional Disposal District or,
53B.
53B.
Do you want to
So-
join that district? Because Ken wants to retire. If you're looking for something else to do. It's just one Thursday a month.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, right.
conservation, obviously, everybody just heard about that, there are more properties moving forward.
Oh, nice.
January looks to be like a time frame where some more action will be taking place. I guess Celt's very busy with acquiring properties.
Anything else for the board?
I have nothing else.
Okay, John?
The BudCom finished with all the budgets, the marathon session last night, and successfully got through everything. I don't think there are any changes to report, so I think we
Everything's
are
approved?
in agreement and everything is approved, so waiting warrant articles on that front. Econ Dev didn't have a quorum, unfortunately, this time around, so our next meeting is, hold on one second, just get it exactly correct. Is January 4th here in the building at 6 o'clock.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
Russ?
Energy Committee, we're all all up to speed. Communication committee, you can see some of their fine work. They were here, this weekend,
Yes,
doing this.
Saturday.
Again, another committee that just is a.
Including
stellar-
apparently using
stellar
their
work.
own time and their own vehicles to replace one of the TVs that was broken.
Yeah, just
So we, like, hats off to that group.
Just stellar work, and of course, in particular, Steph's leadership, and then
And
Josh's
Josh.
leadership on the tech side is really immeasurable amount or he's given an immeasurable amount. And then the library, tomorrow, I am struggling for the word here, the project.
Amphitheater?
The
The amphitheater.
This is at 4:30 a.m. Catching up with me. The amphitheater demolition starts tomorrow.
Oh, great.
And question to quickly sort of hash out here, maybe, but am I understanding correctly that the library will be managing the project?
Correct.
So the library is, the folks over there are wondering, I guess, Liz, Janice, wondering, when questions come up, like change orders and stuff like that, how is that to be handled? Are they to come to us with each?
None, right?
My suggestion to Janice and Liz was for them to name a designee on the trustees that would be responsible for approving change orders. So like what we did with the Mill Road Bridge is the select board had voted to approve Bob Mentagari to approve change orders, so that if something happened in between meetings, he was authorized to expend those extra dollars up to the approved budget amount. That way it didn't hold up the project, didn't hold up construction, and you didn't have to have a special meeting.
But it doesn't need to come to this board because we are not managing the project, nor
Correct.
did we sign the contract.
We did
But
not
we-
sign the contract.
Yeah, the money sits with the town.
Correct, but you've approved a not to exceed budget, so as long as those change orders are within their 10% contingency that was built within the project, they should be able to handle those themselves.
They would only have to come to us if they were gonna go over their total bottom line budget and needed additional funding from us.
Okay.
So was the contract reviewed?
I believe the library staff reviewed the contract. I did not review it or send it through our legal counsel. It was executed by the library trustees.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking,
It was that board's choice to sort of take the reins on this so that they could get started immediately.
right, the concern was,
Without any delays of getting the town involved at the sort of end.
the concern,
stage.
I think I missed that discussion. This is catching up with me now. That was the night I was late. There was a discussion with the library.
There was, yeah, and I think there was
Okay.
sort of some misunderstandings about sort of
Okay.
who needed to sign the contract.
All right,
And if we were gonna get involved at the late stage, there was gonna be a delay in terms of Karen getting up to speed and then legal counsel getting involved, and the trustees preferred to take the reins themselves, which seems reasonable as they were the ones who had been in charge of the whole project.
okay.
But I don't think we had that final piece here, right?
I think that was handled offline, Janice had asked us to sign the contract, and then there was a good meeting that was had between the town folks and the library folks to hash out, and the agreement was made that the library was taking that over. Which is kind of, they're the ones that hired the engineer, they did the RFP, it was all done by them, and so we decided to leave it with them, and that was their choice, so as not to have any delays.
At that time, what am I trying to say? Are we concerned at all about, I guess, expertise?
I think, in terms of the library trustees,
Having
potentially,
expertise, them.
but they
to
have a
lean on.
contracted engineer that is leading them through the entire project.
And by the way, this is not a loaded question.
No,
I'm not
I get it.
setting anything up. I'm working through this in, live and in person.
Yeah.
Just.
I don't know, speaking for myself, I don't know if I would have any additional expertise to add.
Well, no. I was thinking, because in some cases, it's KIP, right? It's,
Right, and in this
Kip would
case,
manage
KIP
it.
was unavailable, so they went with an outside contractor who they trust. Am I speaking
All right.
correctly?
I guess I'm trying to root around a little bit to see if there's any, there are any issues that we could perhaps solve
Yeah.
preemptively, but I don't know, I just making sure.
Well, the only thing I would say is, and again, I don't want a Monday morning quarterback, but, from a legal standpoint, I guess I would have preferred to have maybe reviewed the contract myself or, had counsel do so, but.
I think the contract was between the trustees and the builder, however, like, the town is not involved, the town was just financing the project and providing the funds. So we offered to become involved, but that would have caused a time delay that the trustees were not comfortable with. So that was how that, am I speaking correctly on how that went down? There was a lot of back and forth that occurred
So we're just
before
gonna
this
act
decision was made.
as a payables vendor. So the trustees will approve the invoices, send them to me, and Tamara will process them with the weekly AP.
I have a comment over here, colleague.
Thank you. Just two comments on the library thing. One, when we built the bridge and we had no expertise, we hired an engineer to tell us how to build a bridge. That's what the library's done. They
Yep,
hired an engineer
exactly.
and they did that before we even got into the
Yep.
mix. And two, I kind of look at the library like I do the school.
Yep.
Like, we don't manage the library, we just figure out how much money they get from the town. The library trustees manage the library and its buildings. So having them manage this contract is the way it should be. Like, they're responsible for their building, their property, and to stay within that budget that we allotted them. Everything else it's a trustee issue.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like the school, how we don't micromanage the school either, we just send them a check.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to extend
Thank you,
our.
that's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, I didn't intend to extend our evening too much, but I have to say I got a lot out of that discussion. I appreciate that feedback. So, the bottom line, I'm not being
Word- the word
sarcastic,
is
why are you
project.
laughing?
He
at
won't
me?
remember tomorrow, but
No, that was nice of you to say. It was that you brought up an
I tried
issue,
so hard for a genuine moment.
you brought up an issue and you felt there was some resolution
Yes.
to that issue. Great.
So thank you for your comments. So if there is an anticipated overrun of the budget, that's when there needs to be a discussion with us.
If they were looking to the town to provide more
Okay.
funds, correct,
Roger that.
which hopefully will not occur. Anything else that you have for us?
Oh, no, nope.
Okay, Paul?
We didn't have a meeting, so we're all set.
Okay, all right. And I don't think I have anything from the school. I don't know how I know there was the public solar meeting that occurred. I don't know if anybody had a chance to go to that. I had a conflict on that night, but I think that was that just yesterday, or was that last week? It was just yesterday, yeah. I had the CMS concert, so I don't know how that went, but hopefully that went well and people got their questions answered. Looking forward to kind of seeing where that school solar project goes in the future. And I don't have any other updates.
waving a
Maddie,
finger.
would you like to say a quick?
That presentation will happen again at the next school board
Oh,
meeting on
nice.
the 8th,
Oh, so then I will see it.
and the budget committee will be joining to also see that presentation.
Perfect, so anybody who's interested in
Anybody
learning
else
more,
interested could go
about
to
school
that and
solar,
ask their questions, or
January
it will be live streamed.
wonderful, perfect, thank you. Any non-public for us tonight? No? Okay, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn at 7:55.
Holidays.
And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Next week, we are signing only, no meeting.
We'll be here next week and is not traveling for Christmas.
I will be here.
I'm here.